As you may imagine, we're distraught and we need your help. It's just been a living nightmare not knowing what's happening, and we're sick with worry.
In March 2009, Claudia Lawrence, a 35-year-old chef at the University of York, vanished without a trace, leaving her family and police desperate for answers. Initial investigations struggled to disclose leads, and years of searching yielded few clues about what happened to her. Despite extensive efforts, the case remains one of the most complicated mysteries in modern British history. With no body, no suspects charged, and only silence from those who might hold the truth, Claudia's disappearance has left an enduring mark on her loved ones and the community. Here's the story of Claudia Lawrence, a case still shrouded in unanswered questions.
Of Claudia Lawrence's house not being occupied since the time that she went missing, and therefore as a consequence we've got the opportunity to go back with advances in forensic science.
Claudia Lawrence was a cheerful and dependable 35-year-old woman who lived alone in a modest terraced house on Heworth Road, York. She worked as a chef at the University of York's Goodricke College, a job she genuinely enjoyed despite the early morning starts. Claudia was a valued member of her workplace. She was known for her strong work ethic and punctuality.
Claudia worked here as a chef in one of the many kitchens on site at the University of York campus. She enjoyed her work, got on with her colleagues, and showed no signs of wanting to change her job or indeed career path.
Claudia had a close-knit circle of friends and a loving relationship with her parents, named Joan and Peter Lawrence. They were deeply involved in her life and supported her in every way possible. Peter Lawrence was a solicitor by profession. He was known for his calm and determined demeanor. Claudia's social life was active, filled with outings with friends and calls to her family, who described her as caring and full of life. Despite living alone, Claudia rarely seemed lonely, as she was surrounded by people who cared deeply about her. Claudia was last seen around 3:05 p.m. on March 18th, as she walked along Heworth Road when she was heading toward her home in York after running errands. Later that evening, she spoke on the phone with her mother. Their conversation was normal, with Claudia mentioning her plans for work the next day. Nothing in her voice or the content of their chat hinted at any trouble or forewarning of what was to come. For those who knew Claudia, this conversation would later become a haunting memory of normalcy before the storm.
We've had highs, we've had lows, we've had lots of opportunities where things have happened, but nothing has ever translated into something tangible in terms of finding out what's happened to Claudia and where she is.
The morning of March 19th brought concern when Claudia failed to show up for her 6 a.m. shift at the University of York, where she worked as a chef. Her reputation as a punctual and reliable employee made her absence out of character. Her colleagues tried calling her, and when they got no response, they contacted her parents. Claudia's father decided to go to her house later that day to check on her. When he arrived, he found the home seemed undisturbed. Her bed was neatly made, the kitchen was tidy, and there were no signs of a struggle or disorder. Yet, there were critical items missing, which were her phone, work bag, and keys. It appeared that Claudia had left for work as planned, but had never arrived. The worry in her family grew as the hours passed, and by March 20th, they decided to report her missing to the police. North Yorkshire Police treated Claudia's disappearance as suspicious and began an extensive investigation, while mobilizing officers and volunteers to search for clues. The seemingly simple timeline of events from March 18th to 20th soon turned into one of the most intricate and distressing missing person cases in the region's history. With each passing day, the search continued, but the answers Claudia's family craved remained mysterious. The case would go on to draw the attention of the public and the media, with everyone hoping for a breakthrough that would reveal the truth about her fate.
It's got a piece of information, even if they don't think it's important, and that piece of information will help to find Claudia. So whatever that bit of information is they need to give it either to North Yorkshire Police, or if they don't want to do that, then to Crime Stoppers.
The investigation into Claudia Lawrence's disappearance began at her home, which offered few clues but raised significant questions. The tidy interior suggested no signs of a struggle or forced entry. Her car was parked in its usual spot outside the house, further indicating that she hadn't left for work by car that morning. Missing from the home were all items she would normally take with her when leaving. This led police to believe she had left voluntarily or willingly let someone in.
Probably one of the biggest mysteries of any crimes I've ever covered, and with a total lack of explanation of what had happened to that woman.
Claudia Lawrence's daily routine became a central focus for investigators trying to piece together what might have happened on March 18, 2009. Claudia was known for her dependable nature, often walking to work early in the morning. Her route was familiar, passing through residential streets and quieter parts of York, which made it clear that she was accustomed to travelling through these areas. The assumption was that someone familiar with her habits or the path she took might have had the opportunity to intercept or harm her. This line of thinking led search teams to meticulously comb through the neighbourhoods and open spaces around her home. They focused on her route, scanning for any sign that could point to where she might have gone or what could have happened to her.
It's astonishing to think that in this era of CCTV, forensic science and cell towers, that someone can simply slip through the cracks and disappear. How is it possible that someone can simply vanish without a trace? And what hope do the investigators have when the trail goes cold?
Officers conducted extensive door-to-door inquiries, speaking with residents and asking if they had seen anything suspicious during the early morning hours. Despite their efforts, few leads came forward. CCTV footage was reviewed, and while it provided a broader view of the area, Claudia herself was not captured on any recordings during the critical time frame when she would have been making her way to work. This was a frustrating setback, as investigators were unable to confirm her movements or locate potential witnesses who might have seen her.
We realised right from the beginning that it was an unusual case. There are missing people, obviously, all the time, and the police will sometimes try to gain quite a bit of publicity locally for someone who's gone missing for all sorts of reasons. But this quite clearly was something extra.
Right from the word go, I had a feeling this was going to be a very big case. There's just that feeling about it, and so it's proved.
One key detail was discovered during the investigation: that Claudia's phone was switched off at approximately 12:08 a.m. on March 19th, just hours before she was due to start her shift at 6 a.m. The phone's last signal was traced to an area close to her home, but after it was turned off, there was no trace of its location or activity. This sudden and unexplained disconnection raised suspicions, but did not provide the clarity that investigators desperately needed. The lack of physical evidence at Claudia's house or along her route added to the sense of confusion. Police considered the possibility that Claudia might have been approached by someone she knew, someone she may have trusted. This led them to shift their focus to her social circle by looking into friends, neighbours, and even people who might have had reasons to harm her. The theory that Claudia was potentially harmed by someone familiar added a layer of fear and complexity to the case, leaving questions unanswered and her family, friends, and investigators searching for the truth.
The truth, or any truth, or partial truth, or something. And that is despicable. I mean, if you were the person whose daughter's missing and you sat around for 6.5 years trying to find answers, it's soul-destroying.
The investigation into Claudia Lawrence's disappearance was one of the comprehensive ever conducted by the North Yorkshire Police. Officers and volunteers meticulously searched York and its surrounding areas, covering waterways, parks, open fields, and even abandoned properties. Despite the enormous effort, no physical evidence was discovered to reveal what happened to Claudia.
Is everybody being honest with you? I don't think people are being completely honest with us, and those particularly closest to Claudia and associates, I still think there's information they are not divulging at the minute. For whatever reason, I would encourage them to come forward.
Investigators explored various theories. One possibility was abduction. Claudia's disappearance while walking to work early raised concerns she might have been forcibly taken. The time and location suggested she could have been vulnerable during those quiet, early morning hours. This theory was considered seriously, but no evidence supported it definitively. Another theory centered on a known assailant. Claudia's outgoing nature and active social life meant she interacted with a wide circle of friends.
Sad that he had to go to his death not knowing what had become of his daughter, but my only hope is that if there is something after this life, that he's gone to that, and perhaps he's been reunited with Claudia if she's gone as well.
Several individuals from her social circle became persons of interest, but investigations did not lead to any conclusive results.
Your belly every day, just find her, just do whatever it takes and just find what's happened to her and end our misery, because she is ultimately the victim, but we are all victims too. We're all left here.
A less likely but still considered theory was that Claudia had been a victim of a random act of violence. However, the lack of signs of a struggle at her home or along her walking route made this scenario appear improbable. Each theory was carefully examined, and officers followed up on numerous leads, yet the investigation consistently hit roadblocks. Without witnesses, significant evidence, or a clear direction, Claudia's case remained a mystery. To this day, the theories surrounding her disappearance have fueled ongoing debates and speculation, keeping her case in the public eye, but still unresolved.
I think even at that hour, you said it was a thoroughfare, wasn't it? You would be taking a real risk bundling someone into a car, and my guess is that she would have put up a fight. So I suppose I'm leaning towards somebody she knew more than someone who just grabbed her off the street and forced her to get into the car.
The investigation into Claudia Lawrence's disappearance was loaded with challenges, with one persistent obstacle standing out, which was silence. Wayne Fox, the senior investigating officer, referred to this lack of cooperation as the single barrier to solving the case. He emphasized that someone, or perhaps several individuals, likely knew what happened to Claudia, but had chosen to remain silent. His requests for information were constant, urging anyone with knowledge to come forward, even if anonymously.
I would like to stress that the searches that you will see in the coming days are just one of several active lines of inquiry which are currently being investigated and pursued by the North Yorkshire Police Major Investigation Team in our efforts to establish what happened to Claudia.
Despite numerous public appeals and assurances of confidentiality, no new significant leads emerged. The silence left investigators handling with a case that appeared to lack witnesses, definitive evidence, or even a clear motive. Claudia's disappearance has deeply affected her family. Her mother has relied on her faith to cope with the loss. Joan has consistently appealed for information and kept Claudia's story in the public eye.
But I feel it's an important step forward for me to do this, and I just hope somebody, perhaps along the route, might have a memory jog or just think it might bring something back for them.
Claudia's father became a steadfast advocate for finding Claudia after her disappearance, tirelessly campaigning for justice and keeping her case in the public eye. His efforts extended beyond Claudia's case as he worked to enact Claudia's Law, which was a legal reform allowing families of missing persons to manage their financial and legal affairs. Peter's dedication earned him an OBE in 2018, a testament to his commitment to helping other families in similar situations. Tragically, he passed away in 2021 without ever learning what happened to his daughter.
I think I would have a very sinking feeling and more of a hole in my stomach than there is if Claudia wasn't alive.
In August 2021, over a decade after Claudia's disappearance, police launched a major search operation in Sandhutton, a small village near York. The operation focused on gravel pits, which was a location that had surfaced in prior intelligence as potentially significant. This decision was based on a combination of ongoing intelligence reviews and advances in search technology. Sandhutton had been identified as a site of interest during earlier investigations, but the challenges of accessing the area and limitations in equipment delayed a thorough search. In particular, the gravel pits were considered significant due to their isolated nature, which could make them a potential location to conceal evidence. Specialist officers used advanced equipment, including ground-penetrating radar, to scour the area for any trace of Claudia.
Bringing those responsible for a disappearance to justice remains the same in my view, and that's silence. Silence from the people who know or may suspect what happened to Claudia, but have, so far, for reasons that are only known to them, been unable to come forward to the police.
The search drew considerable public attention and reignited hope that the mystery might finally be solved. For weeks, officers combed through the site with precision and determination. Yet, despite the scale of the operation and the resources allocated, the search yielded no new evidence or clues about Claudia's fate. This setback was a bitter reminder of how elusive the truth had remained. For Claudia's family, it was another painful chapter in their long wait for answers. While the police have maintained that the case is not closed, the lack of progress underscored the immense difficulty of pursuing a case where silence prevails. Adding another layer of sorrow to this story, Claudia's childhood friend, Lisa Welford, was murdered in 2023 by her abusive ex-partner, Vincent Morgan. Lisa and Claudia had been inseparable during their school years. Morgan, who had a history of domestic violence, attacked Lisa in a horrifying incident. He held her head underwater in the River Derwent, pretending to help her before launching the assault. Lisa was rescued by passers-by, but later died in the hospital from severe injuries, including a brain bleed and fractured bones. This tragedy devastated Joan Lawrence, who described Lisa as being like Claudia's shadow during their childhood. The loss of two close friends in such tragic circumstances has amplified the pain for those who loved them. As of 2024, Claudia Lawrence's case remains open. Police continue to appeal for information, emphasizing that even the smallest detail could lead to a breakthrough. The silence surrounding her disappearance is a constant frustration for investigators. The truth about what happened to Claudia may still be out there, waiting for someone to come forward. Until then, her disappearance remains one of the most haunting unsolved cases in recent history.
Over the years to find information about her disappearance. He died earlier this year, not knowing what had happened to Claudia.